I'm going to do a quick overview of the workbooks that you were sent earlier this week. You will need to download your Map Performance workbook from the zip file sent to you. Then you'll need to make a copy of it and save it to whatever file, whether that be your desktop or documents or however you would like to do it. And you can certainly rename it anything you would like. Once you've done that, that activates the workbook. And you will notice that in the workbook there are tabs at the bottom. Those tabs reflect the areas that appear on an annual performance report. As you may recall, we have Standard 1 for ELA, Math, and Science, and Standards 2 for ELA, Math, and Science. And what that includes is these are all of your students, whereas these are your subgroup students. You will be receiving your MPIs from our office either on Friday or on Monday of next week. Once you receive your MPI, you will be able to fill in this yellow square for your Diagnostic 1. That will allow you to know where you are if if students' MPIs were going to be your end of year MPI. As you know, that won't be your end of year MPI because you'll go all the way to Diagnostic 3 before you have a firmer idea of how students have grown and changed proficiency levels between now and Diagnostic 3, and then certainly on the grade level map test itself. So you will be able to use this yellow cell here to gauge your progress as you go throughout the year. However, on the 21st and during the early out, you will use this scorecard or workbook to determine what your MPI for your building needs to be at the end of the school year so that you achieve that 5% progress that was part of the academic services strategic plan. And you can see here that this number, like I said, is active. So I can change this number. And it is a function of the 2018 data, the 2019 data. As you can tell, we do not have 2020 data because we did not take spring assessments due to the closure last year. So the status for your APR will now be a 3-year rolling average of 18, 19, and 21. So you can put in different MPIs to see what happens to progress. And you can begin to notice that as the MPI increases, so does your progress. So you eventually want to find an MPI that is going to be enough to actually generate that 5% score. So you will be able to change this, and you will be able to do that for all of the cells. So you will be able to change the one for math and change the one for science, ELA, math, and science for your subgroups. You may be wondering, where does the MPI come from? If you remember, we will be showing you or giving you your MPI, as I stated earlier. However, you would be able to calculate your MPI easily if you know how many students across your building, independent of grade level, it would be your total number of students, are in each one of the proficiency categories that DESE lays out. So this is an example of a middle school. Over here is your total reportable students, and it shows how many total reportable students are in each category. As you may remember, DESE assigns a proficiency category an index value, For example, below basic students receive 1 index point value. That is multiplied by the number of students in each of the proficiency categories, and those index points are added to a total. Here, that total is 435. Then, the index total is divided by the total number of reportable students. This number is the result of that division. You multiply it by 100, and that gives you an MPI. This document is the Missouri School Improvement Performance number 5, 2019 Comprehensive Guide, and it certainly is accessible on DESE if you are interested in reading more about how to calculate an MPI. So going back to your workbook, this is where you will enter your MPIs. Those will be given to you by the district. You're welcome to calculate those yourself. And as a reminder, as you may recall, iReady has a crosswalk for their scale scores and DESE proficiency levels. So, for example, if a student is, and be careful that you know the subject, if a grade 3 student, and you're looking at reading, has a scale score in iReady of between 100 and 497, at the end of the year, that student will score below basic. So ensure that you are looking at the end of the year view when you're using this particular crosswalk. For iReady data, that means end of the year view here. And you would be able to notice the scale scores for students in any report almost that you went to. You could go to diagnostic results, select a grade, select a teacher, and this report, and I'm not going to scroll and show any further because I don't want to breach student data privacy, but this report would show you each student in that teacher's class. It would show you their scale score. You could then easily go to this document and determine what proficiency level they would get at the end of the year if, right now, nothing changed. And that will help you better understand what your MPI is right now and what it will need to be at the end of the year. This is also important for teachers when they develop their own particular SMART goals for their either data walls or for their data analysis. When they do their quadrant work, they could easily use this crosswalk to develop SMART goals surrounding the students that are likely to jump proficiency bands. That is what drives an improvement in your MPI. So back to this particular example, it's important that you notice at the bottom is growth. And growth is important because you will also need to show growth, not just an improvement in your status, which is the 3-year rolling average of your last 3 years, which is this number, not just progress, which is a 5% increase, and that is in terms of proficiency changes that happen in your MPI, but also growth. It's important that students reach grade level mastery. That is how DESE determines growth. So they will look, for example, at a grade 3 student's map performance, and then they will look at a student's grade 4 map performance. They're looking at the changes across that time to determine growth. So it's important that a student, especially now more than ever, with potential unfinished learning, reach their stretch growth. And this is particularly so for students that are 1 grade level below and or 2 or 3 grade levels below, because stretch growth in terms of iReady will actually help the student get on a path to proficiency. And this will help change proficiency levels, which helps progress change, and that also helps then change your MPI, which overall will help your status improve on your APR. If you have any questions about this particular approach, I am more than happy to talk with you. Let me know. This is a brief overview, but again, you will be receiving your Diagnostic 1 MPIs to put into your scorecards, but remember, that will not reflect what your end of year MPI needs to be to reach this 5% progress. So you'll need to determine that by changing this number until you see a 5%. And that will let you know what your goal is for your MPI in each of the subject areas. Again, if you have questions, I'm happy to help.